The year was 2147, and Earth had become a shadow of its former self, a fractured planet clinging to survival amidst the ruins of its once glorious civilizations. For decades, humanity had waged an unwinnable war against the Vorath Syndicate, and a coalition of alien races united under a single purpose: domination. Their technology dwarfed anything humanity could muster, their weapons capable of annihilating entire cities in seconds. Yet despite the odds, humanity refused to surrender. Admiral Kyle Voss stood silently on the bridge of his flagship, the Invincible Dawn. His weathered face bore the scars of countless battles, both physical and emotional. Around him, officers scrambled to coordinate the last remnants of Earth's fleet as they prepared for what everyone knew would be their final stand. The battle ahead wasn't just another skirmish. It was the culmination of years of loss, sacrifice, and desperation. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Mara Solis, her voice trembling slightly as she turned toward him, "the Vorath fleet has entered Saturn's orbit. They're moving in fast." Kale nodded grimly, his eyes fixed on the holographic display hovering above the command console. The image showed hundreds of red dots, each representing a Vorath warship, closing in on the scattered blue markers of humanity's remaining vessels. It was hopeless. Even with every ship Earth had left, they were outnumbered 10-1. "Signal all squadrons," Kyle ordered, his voice steady despite the weight pressing down on him. "Prepare for engagement and tell Captain Reed to hold position at the edge of the debris field. If we can funnel them into the asteroid belt, we might buy ourselves some time." "Yes, sir," Solis replied, relaying the orders. Her fingers danced across her console, sending encrypted messages to the other ships. Outside the viewport, the vast expanse of space stretched endlessly, dotted only by the faint glow of Saturn's rings and the distant pinpricks of stars. But soon, that peaceful vista would erupt into chaos. As the first wave of Vorath ships emerged from hyperspace, the silence of space shattered. Energy beams lanced through the void, striking human vessels with devastating precision. Explosions lit up the darkness as cruisers and frigates disintegrated under the relentless assault. Kyle clenched his fists as he watched the carnage unfold. Every explosion represented lives lost, men and women who had willingly sacrificed themselves for a cause that seemed increasingly futile. "Admiral," shouted Commander Elias Kane, his face pale with urgency. "We've lost contact with Squadrons 3 and 5. Their comms are down, and I'm not picking up any life signs." Kale swallowed hard, but didn't respond immediately. He already knew what that meant. Another 100 souls gone in an instant. Another failure added to the growing list. "Focus fire on the lead destroyer," Kale commanded, his tone sharper now. "If we can take out their command vessel, it'll disrupt their coordination." The crew sprang into action, redirecting the Invincible Dawn's firepower toward the massive Vorath destroyer looming ahead. Plasma cannons roared to life, unleashing torrents of energy that streaked across the battlefield. For a brief moment, hope flickered in Kale's chest as the destroyer's shields faltered, but then reinforcements arrived, pouring in from behind the enemy lines. The tide turned yet again, and the humans found themselves overwhelmed. Back on Earth, thousands of kilometers away from the unfolding catastrophe, Dr. Ilara Quinn sat hunched over her workstation aboard Solace Station. The orbital fortress served as humanity's last line of defense, a sprawling complex equipped with advanced sensors, weapons arrays, and research facilities. But even here, the sense of impending doom was palpable. Ilara's hands trembled slightly as she analyzed the data streaming in from Admiral Voss's fleet. She had spent years developing cutting-edge technologies designed to give humanity an edge in this war, but none of it mattered now. The Vorath were simply too powerful, too relentless. Her comm unit buzzed suddenly, interrupting her thoughts. On the screen appeared the face of General Marcus Hale, Earth's highest-ranking military MAO officer. His expression was grave. "Dr. Quinn," he began without preamble, "we've received a transmission from Admiral Voss. It's unusual." "What do you mean?" Ilara asked, leaning closer to the monitor. "Is it encrypted?" "Yes, heavily so. We've managed to decode part of it, but it doesn't make much sense," Coordinates to some location deep in uncharted space along with a message. Find the key. Do you have any idea what that could mean? Ilara frowned, her mind racing. Uncharted space? That's dangerous territory. There's nothing out there except radiation fields and ancient ruins. Are you sure this isn't a trap? Hale hesitated before responding. That's what we thought at first, but look at this. He shared a file containing additional data extracted from the transmission. Among the fragmented information were schematics of something unlike anything Ilara had ever seen. It's incredible, she murmured, studying the designs. This looks like advanced alien tech, far beyond anything the Vorath possess. If these coordinates lead us to this, whatever it is, it might be our only chance. Hale sighed heavily. I don't need to tell you how risky this is. Sending a team into uncharted space with no guarantee of success, it's madness. But right now, madness might be all we've got. Ilara nodded slowly. Give me 24 hours to assemble a team and prepare a ship. If there's even a sliver of hope in those coordinates, I'll find it. Later that evening, Ilara gathered a small group of volunteers in one of Solace Station's briefing rooms. Among them were Captain Jackson Reed, a seasoned pilot known for his daring maneuvers, Dr. Priya Patel, an astrophysicist specializing in anomalies, and Sergeant Dax Torin, a hardened soldier tasked with keeping the team safe. Each of them carried the weight of countless losses, but their determination burned brighter than ever. This mission isn't going to be easy, Ilara began, pacing back and forth as she addressed the group. We're heading into uncharted space based on intel from Admiral Voss. What we're looking for could save humanity, or it could get us killed. Either way, failure isn't an option. Captain Reed raised a hand. With respect, Doc, why? Should we trust this intel? Voss has been fighting the Vorath longer than anyone. Isn't it possible he sent us on a wild goose chase? Ilara paused, considering the question. It's possible, she admitted. But think about it. Voss knows better than anyone how dire our situation is. If he believed these coordinates were worth dying for, then I believe they're worth investigating. Whatever's out there, it's our best shot. The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Finally, Sergeant Torin spoke up. All right, Doc. You've got my vote. Let's suit up and see what's waiting for us in the void. Preparations for the mission took less than a day. The team boarded the Eclipse, an experimental starship outfitted with state-of-the-art engines and shielding. Designed for speed and stealth, the Eclipse was humanity's most advanced vessel, but even it couldn't guarantee safe passage through the dangers of uncharted space. As the ship launched from Solace Station, Ilara gazed out the viewport at the battered remains of Earth below. Cities lay in ruins, oceans choked with debris, skies darkened by ash and smoke. It was a sobering reminder of what they were fighting for and what they stood to lose if they failed. We're clear of the A station, Captain Reed announced from the cockpit. Setting course for the coordinates. Estimated travel time, 72 hours. Ilara nodded, her resolve hardening. Somewhere out there, hidden among the stars, lay the key to humanity's salvation, or perhaps its doom. Either way, she intended to find it. Meanwhile, back on the battlefield near Saturn, Admiral Cale Voss made one final stand. Surrounded by enemy ships, his own vessel battered and leaking atmosphere, he gave the order to retreat. But as the survivors fled, Cale remained behind, ensuring the rest of the fleet escaped while he held off the Vorath. Good luck, Doctor, he whispered into the void, moments before the invincible dawn exploded in a blinding flash of light. Far away, aboard the Eclipse, Ilara felt a pang of grief as she received confirmation of Cale's death. But there was no time to mourn. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders now, and they couldn't afford to fail. The Eclipse sailed through the void, its sleek hull glinting faintly under the light of distant stars. For 3 days the ship had traveled without incident, but now it approached the coordinates provided by Admiral Voss. As the crew gathered on the bridge, tension filled the air. None of them knew what awaited them. whether salvation or destruction lay ahead. Dropping out of hyperspace in 10 seconds, Captain Jackson Reed announced, his hands steady on the controls. The hum of the engines shifted as the ship decelerated, emerging from the blur of faster-than-light travel. When the viewport cleared, the crew stared in awe at the sight before them. Floating amidst the emptiness was an enormous alien structure, a colossal artifact shaped like a spiraling helix, its surface etched with intricate patterns that shimmered faintly, as if alive. It dwarfed the eclipse, radiating an aura of ancient power. "What is that?" Dr. Priya Patel whispered, her voice tinged with both wonder and unease. Ilara Quinn stepped forward, her eyes wide as she analyzed the readings flooding into her console. "It's emitting low-level energy signatures," she said, her tone clinical despite the surreal nature of the discovery. "This isn't just debris. It's functional, and incredibly old." Sergeant Dax Torrin crossed his arms, his expression skeptical. "Old doesn't mean friendly. We've seen enough ruins to know ancient tech can be dangerous." "True," Ilara conceded, "but this matches the schematics from Voss's transmission. Whatever this is, it's why we're here." Captain Reed nodded. "All right, team. Let's suit up and take a closer look. Stay sharp. We don't know what kind of defenses this thing might have." Inside the helix after docking near the base of the structure, the crew disembarked clad in reinforced exosuits designed to protect against unknown hazards. The entrance yawned open before them, a massive archway adorned with glowing symbols that pulsed rhythmically, casting eerie shadows across the metallic floor. As they ventured inside, the air grew colder, and the walls seemed to hum with latent energy. The interior was labyrinthine, filled with corridors that twisted and turned unpredictably. Along the way, they encountered holographic projections depicting scenes of galaxies forming, civilizations rising and falling, and wars fought among stars. "This place feels alive," Priya murmured, running her gloved hand over a wall. "Like it's watching us." "It probably is," Dax muttered, keeping his weapon trained ahead. "Stay alert." Their path eventually led them to a vast chamber at the heart of the structure. At its center floated a crystalline device suspended within a field of golden light, the Nexus Core. Its surface refracted light in dazzling patterns, creating an almost hypnotic effect. "That's it?" Ilara breathed, stepping closer. "This must be the key Voss mentioned." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. From hidden alcoves emerged a swarm of spider-like drones, their mechanical limbs clicking ominously as they surrounded the intruders. "Hostiles. Incoming!" Dax shouted, raising his rifle. The fight was chaotic. The drones moved with unnatural speed, their weapons firing beams of concentrated energy. Despite being outnumbered, the crew fought back fiercely, using cover and teamwork to hold their ground. Ilara worked frantically at a nearby console, attempting to disable the drones remotely while her teammates provided cover fire. "Got it," she exclaimed after several tense minutes. With a final keystroke, the drones froze mid-motion before collapsing into inert heaps. Breathing heavily, the team regrouped around the Nexus Core. Though victorious, the encounter left them shaken. "Whatever this thing is," Jackson said, gesturing toward the core. "It doesn't want visitors." Unlocking the secrets, Ilara approached the Nexus Core cautiously, her mind racing with possibilities. She activated a handheld scanner, analyzing the device's composition and energy output. What she found astonished her. This technology, "It's beyond anything we've ever seen," she explained, her voice trembling with excitement. "It's capable of manipulating time and reality itself. If we can harness it, we might be able to rewrite the course of the war. But how do we use it?" Priya asked, frowning. "It's not exactly user-friendly." Ilara hesitated, studying the core more closely. Embedded within its design were symbols resembling puzzles, complex arrangements of shapes and colors that shifted when touched. Realization dawned on her. "It's a test," she said softly. "Whoever built this wanted to ensure only those worthy could access its power. These puzzles are designed to evaluate intelligence, morality, and cooperation." Well, let's get started then, Dax grumbled. We don't have all day. Over the next few hours, the crew worked together to solve the puzzles. Each challenge required them to think critically and collaborate, often forcing them to confront difficult ethical dilemmas. One puzzle involved redistributing resources between simulated populations. Another required choosing between saving individuals or preserving collective knowledge. Through trial and error and heated debates, they progressed step by step. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last puzzle clicked into place. The Nexus core flared brightly, bathing the chamber in radiant light. A deep, resonant voice echoed through the room, speaking in a language none of them understood, but somehow they grasped its meaning. You seek to alter destiny, the voice intoned. Know this. Great power demands great sacrifice. To wield the Nexus core is to become one with it, to transcend mortality and bear the burden of creation. Ilara exchanged uneasy glances with her teammates. They had expected challenges, but this revelation struck deeper than anticipated. So someone has to merge with it? Priya asked hesitantly. It seems so, Ilara replied, her expression grim, and whoever does won't come back. Silence fell over the group as the weight of the decision settled upon them. Sacrifice was the price of victory, a truth none of them had fully prepared for. Departure. After much deliberation, the crew decided to bring the Nexus core aboard the Eclipse. Though they hadn't yet determined who would interface with it, they agreed that returning to Solace Station was their best chance of understanding its full potential. As they prepared to leave, Ilara lingered in the chamber staring at the core. She couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching her, not as a passive observer, but as something sentient, waiting patiently for its purpose to be fulfilled. Let's go, Doc, Jackson called from the doorway. We need to move before more drones show up, or worse. Ilara nodded, tearing her gaze away from the core. As they exited the structure, she glanced back one last time. The helix loomed silently behind them, its origins and creators still shrouded in mystery. Back aboard the Eclipse, the crew plotted a course for Earth. The Nexus core rested securely in the cargo bay, its presence both a beacon of hope and a harbinger of uncertainty. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain. Humanity's fate now rested in their hands. The Eclipse emerged from hyperspace near Earth's orbit, its battered hull groaning under the strain of long-distance travel. The crew had barely slept during the journey back, their minds consumed by the weight of what they carried aboard, the Nexus core. Its presence was both a source of hope and an ominous reminder of the sacrifice required to use it. As the ship approached Solace Station, the sight that greeted them was far worse than anything they had imagined. The once mighty orbital fortress now resembled a wounded beast, its outer rings shattered and leaking atmosphere into the void. Fires burned within exposed sections, casting flickering orange light against the dark backdrop of space. And beyond the station, the Vorath fleet loomed, an unstoppable tide of warships blotting out the stars. Gods above, Captain Jackson Reed muttered, his voice hollow as he guided the Eclipse toward a docking bay. They're already here. Ilara Quinn stared at the devastation through the viewport, her heart sinking. She had hoped to return with enough time to prepare, but the Vorath were ahead of schedule. Their planet-cracking weapons were primed, their forces mobilized. Humanity's final bastion was crumbling and Earth itself was moments away from annihilation. We need to get the core to General Hale immediately, Ilara said, her tone urgent. Every second counts. A desperate council inside Solace Station, chaos reigned. Refugees packed the corridors, clutching whatever belongings they could carry. Emergency alarms blared incessantly, drowned out only by the distant rumble of explosions as Vorath ships bombarded the station's defenses. Officers shouted orders, trying desperately to coordinate a defense that everyone knew was futile. General Marcus Hale stood at the center of the command hub, his face lined with exhaustion. When Ilara and her team arrived, he looked up with a mixture of relief and dread. "You're back," he said, his voice gravelly. "What did you find?" Without hesitation, Ilara activated a holographic display, projecting an image of the Nexus core. Gasps rippled through the room as the assembled officers gazed at the artifact's intricate design. "This is the Nexus core," Ilara explained. "It's capable of manipulating time and reality. If we can activate it, we might be able to rewrite the course of this war." Hale narrowed his eyes. "And the catch?" Ilara hesitated before answering. "To activate it, someone has to interface with it. They'll become part of the core, essentially sacrificing themselves to wield its power." Silence fell over the room, broken only by the hum of failing systems and the distant thud of impacts shaking the station. Hale rubbed his temples, clearly, grappling with the implications. "So we're talking about suicide," he said finally. "Who decides who makes that choice?" "That's not your call, General," Ilara replied firmly. "This mission was mine from the start. I'll do it." "No," Sergeant Dax Torrin interjected, stepping forward. "You've been leading this team since day one. You can't throw yourself away like that." "And you think I'm letting someone else take my place?" Ilara shot back, her voice rising. "I'm the one who understands the core better than anyone. It has to be me." Before the argument could escalate further, Dr. Priya Patel spoke up, her voice calm but resolute. "There's no time for this. The Vorath are tearing us apart. If we don't act now, there won't be anyone left to save." Hale nodded grimly. "She's right. We're running out of options. And time." The invasion. As the debate unfolded, the situation outside grew increasingly dire. Vorath boarding parties breached the station's outer hull, cutting through bulkheads with terrifying efficiency. Plasma fire erupted in the corridors, forcing civilians and soldiers alike to flee deeper into the complex. The defenders fought valiantly, but their numbers dwindled with each passing minute. In the command hub, the tension reached a breaking point. Explosions rocked the station, sending debris cascading across the floor. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and smoke filled the air. Amidst the chaos, Ilara made her decision. "I'm activating the core," she declared, her voice cutting through the noise. "Right now." "Are you insane?" Jackson demanded. "We don't even know if it works. What if something goes wrong?" "What if it doesn't?" Ilara countered. "If we wait any longer, we'll lose everything. Do you really want to gamble with billions of lives?" Her words silenced the room. Everyone knew she was right. With a heavy sigh, Hale gave them a order to clear the area around the core. The artifact was hastily transported to a secure chamber, where Ilara prepared to interface with it. The interface. As the crew gathered outside the chamber, emotions ran high. Tears streamed down Priya's face as she hugged Ilara tightly, whispering words of gratitude and farewell. Dax clenched his fists, struggling to contain his anger and grief. Even Jackson, usually stoic, looked visibly shaken. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly, meeting Ilara's gaze. "There's got to be another way." "There isn't," Ilara replied, placing a hand on his shoulder. "But this isn't just about saving humanity. It's about proving that we're worth saving. Trust me, Jackson. I'll see you on the other side." With that, she entered the chamber and sealed the door behind her. Inside, the Nexus core pulsed with an ethereal glow, its surface shimmering like liquid light. Ilara approached it cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. When she touched the core, a surge of energy coursed through her body. Visions flooded her mind, countless timelines branching and converging, each one representing a possible outcome of the war. Some showed humanity victorious, others depicted utter annihilation. In every scenario, the cost was staggering. Through sheer force of will, Ilara began navigating the timelines, searching for a path that would lead to victory without condemning Earth to eternal suffering. The process was agonizing, her consciousness stretched thin as she manipulated events across time and space. Outside the chamber, the crew watched helplessly as the station continued to collapse around them. Vorath troops breached the command hub, engaging the remaining defenders in brutal close-quarters combat. Jackson and Dax fought side by side, buying precious seconds for Ilara to complete her task. A new reality. Just as the Vorath overwhelmed the last line of resistance, the Nexus core flared with blinding light. A shockwave rippled outward, freezing time itself. For a brief moment, the universe hung suspended, caught between destruction and salvation. Then, with a deafening roar, reality rewound. Ships vanished from the battlefield, planets healed there, scars and lives erased by war were restored. When the dust settled, humanity found itself in a new timeline, one where the Vorath threat had been neutralized without further bloodshed. Back in the chamber, Ilara's body dissolved into golden particles, merging completely with the core. Her consciousness expanded, becoming one with the fabric of existence. Though she was gone, her sacrifice ensured that humanity would endure. Ilara Quinn floated in an infinite expanse of light and possibility, her consciousness no longer bound by the limitations of flesh or time. The Nexus core had become an extension of her very being, its power flowing through her like a river of stars. She was everywhere and nowhere, witnessing countless timelines, each one a potential version of humanity's future. The core's voice echoed within her mind, calm yet commanding. You have 5 hours to reshape destiny. Choose wisely. Ilara steadied herself, focusing on the task at hand. She understood the enormity of what she was about to do. Every decision she made would ripple across the fabric of reality, altering the lives of billions. Not just humans, but also the Vorath and countless other species caught in the crossfire. Her goal was clear: end the war without condemning either side to extinction. But achieving that balance would require precision, creativity, and immense courage. Rewriting timelines, the first timeline Ilara explored was familiar, the one she had left behind. In this version, humanity fought valiantly, but ultimately fell to the Vorath. Earth became a lifeless husk, its cities reduced to ash, its oceans poisoned. The Vorath celebrated their victory briefly before turning on each other, their coalition fracturing under internal strife. It was a grim reminder of what awaited if she failed. Ilara moved on, delving deeper into alternate realities. Some showed humanity triumphing through sheer brutality, wiping out the Vorath with weapons of mass destruction, but at a cost so high that Earth's survivors lived in perpetual fear and mistrust. Others depicted uneasy truces where both sides coexisted uneasily, their hatred simmering beneath fragile treaties. Finally, she found a timeline that resonated with hope. In this version, humanity had discovered the Nexus core years earlier, using it not as a weapon but as a tool for diplomacy. With the core's help, they forged alliances with neutral alien factions, convincing them to mediate peace talks between Earth and the Vorath. Though the negotiations were fraught with tension, they eventually led to a historic accord. Both sides agreed to disarm and share resources, ushering in an unprecedented era of cooperation. But this timeline wasn't perfect either. While it avoided outright conflict, lingering resentments threatened to reignite the war. Ilara realized she needed to create something entirely new, a reality where neither side felt compelled to fight. The plan drawing upon fragments from multiple timelines, Ilara crafted a bold strategy. First, she rewound history to prevent the initial ambush that sparked the war, a devastating attack by the Vorath that had left humanity reeling and fueled decades of hatred. By altering key events leading up to the ambush, she ensured that humanity never gave the Vorath a reason to strike. Next, she strengthened alliances between fractured human factions earlier in the timeline, uniting Earth's governments under a single banner long before the war began. This unity allowed humanity to present a stronger front against external threats, reducing the likelihood of aggression. Her most daring move came next, planting false intelligence within the Vorath command structure. Using the core's ability to manipulate causality, she inserted fabricated data suggesting that several rogue human colonies were secretly developing planet-destroying weapons. Fearing retaliation, the Vorath redirected their forces to neutralize these non-existent threats, diverting attention away from Earth. Finally, Ilara orchestrated a civil war within the Vorath syndicate itself. By subtly influencing the decisions of key Vorath leaders, she sowed discord among their ranks. Rival factions turned on each other, leaving the coalition weakened and unable to mount a sustained offensive against humanity. As the clock ticked down, Ilara monitored the changes unfolding across the galaxy. Battles that once raged fiercely now fizzled out, replaced by tentative ceasefires. Diplomatic channels reopened, and ambassadors exchanged messages of goodwill instead of ultimatums. The war was over, not through conquest but through careful manipulation of events. The final moments. With less than an hour remaining, Ilara paused to reflect on what she had accomplished. Billions of lives had been saved, entire civilizations preserved. Yet the cost weighed heavily on her soul. She could feel her connection to the physical world fading, her individuality dissolving into the vastness of the core. "I'm sorry," she whispered, though there was no one left to hear her. "I wanted more time, more life. But this is enough." In her final moments, flashes of memory surfaced. Her childhood dreams of exploring the stars, her tireless work in the lab, the faces of her crewmates aboard the Eclipse. Each image brought a pang of longing, but also a sense of fulfillment. She had done everything she could to protect those she loved. When the timer reached 0, Ilara let go completely. Her consciousness merged fully with the Nexus core, becoming part of its eternal essence. No longer confined by mortality, she watched over the universe as a silent guardian, ensuring that the fragile peace she had created would endure. A new dawn years passed, and humanity entered a golden age unlike anything seen in recorded history. Cities rebuilt themselves, their skylines gleaming with advanced technology powered by clean energy. Oceans healed, forests regrew, and the scars of war faded into memory. Nations worked together seamlessly, united by a shared vision of progress and exploration. Legends of Dr. Ilara Quinn spread far and wide. Statues were erected in her honor, books written about her bravery, songs composed to celebrate her sacrifice. Though no one truly understood how she had ended the war, everyone agreed on one thing: she had given everything to save the world. Deep in space, the Nexus core remained dormant, hidden within the derelict helix structure. Its secrets waited silently, ready to awaken should another species face the same unwinnable war. For now, however, the galaxy basked in peace, and Ilara's legacy lived on in every starship launched, every treaty signed, and every child born into a brighter future. Epilogue. Centuries later, a young girl stood on a hill overlooking Earth's capital city, her eyes wide with wonder as she gazed at the night sky. Her teacher had told her stories of the woman who ended the war, the scientist who became a legend. "Do you think she's still out there?" the girl asked, pointing at the stars. Her mother smiled softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I believe she is, watching over us, making sure we never forget what she taught us." Far above, amidst the swirling currents of time and space, Ilara Quinn smiled too.